And we welcome you to the capital of California on a cool evening in Sacramento. We are inside the sold-out Hardcore Arena for Game 2 of our TNT NBA doubleheader. It's the Houston Rockets and the Sacramento Kings. With Doug Collins, Cheryl Miller, and Reggie Miller. This is Kevin Harlan, and our starting lineups tonight feature two teams in the playoffs a season ago, but staggering to begin this season. With McGrady, Wesley, Yao Ming, Juwan Howard, and Ryan Bowen. And for the Sacramento Kings, Bonzi Wells, Mike Bibby, Brad Miller, Sharif Abdul-Rahim, and Peja Stojakovic. And if anybody mirrors the struggles, Doug Collins, of the Sacramento struggles, it's the struggling Peja Stojakovic.
Well, Kevin, he is such a barometer of this team. They really live off his shooting from the perimeter. But, you know, we talked to Rick Adelman before the game, and really the essence of this team is going to be the core players, the guys who've been with him here through the years. Peja Stojakovic, Mike Bibby, and Brad Miller. Those three guys are going to have to get this team together. Actually, Sharif Abdul-Rahim has been playing well, as is Bonzi Wells. These three, the core players, have not played well at the same time all season long.
And Reggie, what are your impressions of the Houston Rockets?
Well, I mean, I had him earlier this year, and obviously with Tracy McGrady being out, he's obviously the focus of this team. All the offense is run through Tracy, so hopefully him and Yao could get on the same page now that he's healthy, and this Houston Rocket team can make an upstart during the season.
And they need to. They come in at 5-12. Our officials tonight, Joe Forte, along with Tim Donahue and Gary Zielinski. And that is a three-point hit. And from outside, David Wesley, and that is his calling card, the three.
Well, you see the importance of McGrady. When he's on the floor in the post, he gets double-teamed, he gets open shots. When he's on the perimeter penetrating, he gets open shots. He makes everybody better. He has to carry this team.
And that is Sharif Abdul-Rahim, who last year played for Portland. We thought he was going to go to New Jersey. He comes here to the Sacramento Kings.
Well, and he's been a solid player for him all year. I know everyone talks about Sacramento's big three, but Bonzi Wells and Sharif Abdul-Rahim have come in and played solid for the Kings.
There's Yao Ming with two.
You know, one of the things about the Rockets, Reggie, we saw this last year, they're a team that if they get off to slow starts with no energy, they don't get through it. It costs them the rest of the game. So I think the first quarter for this team with energy, they got up to a good start, is vital for their success.
And Mike Bibby over Wesley, who was a little bit late, the rebound by Howard.
Well, you talked about getting off to a quick start. You know, not only does it help Tracy and Yao, but it gives confidence to the other role players. If David Wesley can hit shots, I know Ryan Bowen's not a scorer, but these guys energize when they get off to quick starts.
As I mentioned before, the Rockets at 5-12, Sacramento at 7-11, and the shot clock at 3 for Ryan Bowen out of Iowa. The rebound by Mike Bibby.
They'll give him that shot all day. They were dropped all the way back in Yao Ming's lap. Bowen brings defense. Here's Peja, still in that shooting slump right now, but Bowen will bring you energy, Reggie, but you're really playing 4-on-5 offensively when he's out there. That's why they have to really move the ball and make sure that they don't make that a weakness.
Juwan Howard picks up his first personal fouls. You take a look at some of those first quarter numbers you guys have been talking about regarding the Houston Rockets and Coach Jeff Van Gundy.
Energy. The game is energy and passion. And when they did not have McGrady, they really struggled.
This is Bonzi Wells a season ago with Memphis. He comes here in the offseason. I think he's trying to make a new start for his career.
Well, I knew this was going to be a fresh start. Obviously, you know, he was under fire under Coach Fratello in Memphis, and this was a chance for Bonzi to come here and start fresh. He was coming to a team that is known for making the playoffs and going deep in the playoffs, and he was excited about that with Mike Bibby coming over with the shot block.
A much more bulked up Mike Bibby.
This is what they have to have. They don't have shot blocking. One of the things, if you can get in the lane against Sacramento, you get point-blank shots. They're about 25th or 26th in the league in opponents' field goal percentage. They can't keep guards out of the lane because they don't have much speed on the perimeter. With
the shot clock at 1, this is Wesley, who hits another shot. He nailed a 3, puts in a 2 right there. And the Rockets by 3.
Well, talking with Coach Van Gundy, he said that David Wesley was going to be key for him. He's been struggling with the shot as of late. Brad Miller with a good turnaround right there on Yao. But if David Wesley can start hitting his outside shot, because like we said, this team is set up for Tracy McGrady for his driving kick and penetration. When he drives and kicks and gets into the lane, and Wesley and Derek Anderson to come in and hit those shots, it makes it easier for the Rockets.
Now here is Stojakovic finding Bonzi Wells, and that is a foul on Wells, working inside on Wesley. So Wells picks up his first personal foul. This is the second meeting of 4 between these two teams this year. Rick Adelman coaches the Sacramento Kings. He's in his 8th season. In game 1, played in early November, the Rockets won by 9.
Well, we talked to Jeff Van Gundy before the game. He said, you know, when I watched that tape, they got a lot of open shots. They just did not knock them down. So hoping for a better defensive effort tonight.
So here are the Rockets. There's a screen by Howard, a pick and roll, and a shot which is in with the assist to Wesley. And the Rockets are now going 4 of 6 to start the game.
And I'm telling you, Coach Van Gundy has to be happy. It's all about getting off to good starts for this Rocket team. If they can set the tone early, it's going to pay dividends for them in the 4th.
Kings are 3 of 5, and a driving Stojakovic goes inside with a foul on Ryan Bowen. That is the first on him. And for Adelman's Kings tonight, the keys.
With him, it's always about offensive efficiency. 3 numbers, field goal percentage, points, and 25 assists or more. We talked about the core of their team. This is one of those games, Reggie, that's not about X's and O's. They've lost 3 games at home. They're 6-6 at home. They went through seasons where they didn't lose 6 games. This is a game where you get together in the locker room as a team and you say, guys, whatever we have to do, we win the game tonight. We don't come back in this locker room tonight with a loss. We've got to get ourselves righted. We had a couple home losses that were terrible. We've got to play with energy, and we've got to play with pride. There's Jeff Petrie, who's been a terrific architect of this Sacramento team through all the years, and I'm sure he's, you know, dying on every possession knowing how important this game is tonight.
Now inside, working on Sharif Abdul-Rahim with a turnover and too many steps in the second Rocket turnover tonight.
Well, is it just me, or does Yao look a little bit tougher with that Band-Aid over the eye right there?
Yeah, I think he's got that rugged look. He asked the other night after a press conference, how much do boxers make?
Screen by Miller and a jump shot by Peja Stojakovic, who nails a 3-point shot, which gives the Sacramento Kings their first lead tonight.
And Tracy McGrady couldn't have played that play any better. He trailed, he contested, and I don't know if Peja called bank on the shot, but he played that. he called that. He played that as well as anyone can play it.
Here's McGrady, who is not taking a shot until right there, and his 2 won't go. The hustling Ryan Bowen comes up with an offensive rebound, and a foul on Bibby as the game's high score. Wesley with 5 was driving inside, the first on Mike Bibby.
You know, Reggie, being a scorer, I think it's important when you're struggling to find something that goes your way. And this is one of those shots. He just got into the free throw line. And I remember anytime I ever coached against you, there was 2 things I always felt. You started out the game, you tried to get a layup, and you tried to get free throws, and then built your game from the inside out. And when you're struggling, you got to get something easy so the rest of the game goes for you. And I think that's what Peja has to do tonight.
Yao Ming picks up his first. By the way, that cut, 8 stitches it took to close the Brian Scalabrine elbow the other night as they took on and beat the Boston Celtics.
He's a bleeder. I don't know if the rest of the NBA wants to know about that, but he's a bleeder.
There's a Miller screen and a Bibby hit.
Well, like I said, the big 3 for Sacramento has to come up big as well. Mike Bibby struggled earlier this year with his shooting. He's starting to get his rhythm. I'm glad to see that he's losing the weight that he had early on in the year. I thought he was too big for a point guard.
He got really into the weightlifting in the offseason, got really bulky in the first 7 games of the season, shot about 25% from the floor, and then he had about 6 or 7 straight games of over 25 points, so he's really just getting in shape.
Juwan Howard has started this game 2 of 3. Stojakovic with Yao right there and doubled by McGrady, which means Miller is open. And rebound by Yao.
And that's the problem Yao is going to have when he's guarding Brad Miller. Whenever they run a pick and roll, he is going to have to help. He's going to have to show. And Brad, who can extend the defense with his outside shooting, didn't make Yao pay that time.
You know, Kevin, we talked to Jeff Van Gundy before the game. We talked, obviously, to Rick Adelman. We asked who's going to guard Tracy McGrady. He said, actually, Peja Stojakovic. And he said, he actually does a pretty good job against him because he really pays attention and understands he's got to stick with him the whole night. So he's actually done a pretty good job here as McGrady finally comes over and knocks off that shot. But he's done a pretty nice job, and he's paid attention to him, and he's made his field goal attempts difficult.
Well, Doug, you've talked about Stojakovic's defense in the past, saying we all know about his offense with a quick foul on the perimeter. It's on David Wesley. But you've mentioned his defense in the past.
Well, this Sacramento team has always been a team where when the ball goes in the basket, their attention to detail on defense is better. They get excited when they see their ball score, okay? And tonight they're making shots. Like Bibby's making shots, Stojakovic is making shots, and when they do that, they can get back and they get a little bit excited defensively. Not much, but still offense is their game.
Brady missing again. Each team has hit a 3, and here comes Bibby. The no-look to Miller inside, working on Ryan Bowen, who picks up the rocket foul.
And that's always a luxury you have when you have a center that can outrun the opponent's center. That's what Brad did a good job right there, running down the middle of the court. Mike Bibby did a good job of recognizing that he was ahead of Yao, and Ryan Bowen had to take the foul, sending Brad to the line.
Ryan Bowen picks up his second personal foul, and you're right, here is Miller at the free throw line. He is an 86% free throw shooter. And Reggie, when you survey Jeff Van Gundy's Rockets, what do you see tonight as keys?
Well, obviously, like most NBA teams, you want to get off to a good start. Houston 3-9 when trailing after the first quarter. And who would have thunk it that 90 points, you're happy to get 90 points and win the ball game. And I think that's what the Rockets are. And Tracy McGrady can make both of those things happen. If he can get into the game in the first and second, get a rhythm going, he can make both of those numbers very efficient for the Houston Rockets.
Reggie, just to follow up on that 90-point, they're 0-11, the Rockets, when they don't score 90. They're 5-1 when they do. You know they're going to defend, and they're going to keep the game low. And if they can get 90, that's sort of their magic number. For Sacramento, it's 100. They have not won a game this year if they haven't scored 100.
That was a defensive 3-second violation. We've got a timeout just beyond the halfway point of our first quarter from Sacramento, with the Kings leading the Rockets by 3. You're watching the NBA on TNT.
The NBA on TNT, brought to you by Southwest Airlines, official airline of the NBA. Southwest Airlines, a symbol of freedom. By Lincoln, maker of the all-new 2006 Lincoln Zephyr. Lincoln, reach higher. By Best Buy, thousands of possibilities, get yours. And by Nintendo GameCube.
Both teams are shooting over 60% to start the game as we check in with Cheryl Miller for tonight's Lincoln Zephyr sideline report. Cheryl?
Well, Kevin, Doug, and Reggie, I spoke to Tracy McGrady, and he said looking back at that Boston game, he really didn't need to score 35 points. He said because the team came out with a lot of effort and intensity, they were more than capable of winning that game. He said if we did a lot of great things at both ends of the floor, and if it carries over to these next 6 games, we can definitely turn our season around.
And there you take a look at the team with and without Tracy McGrady.
Well, that lets you know how much superstars really mean in this league. You know, obviously, his back was giving him problems early on, but, you know, that's a big difference when T-Mac is on the floor versus when he's not.
Derek Anderson has taken his place. He is the only substitution for either team because Howard, Wesley, Yao, and Bowen remain for the Rockets. Bibby is out there with Stojakovic, Abdur-Rahim, Wells. And there is a 4th point put in by Yao Ming. The assist went to David Wesley, and the foul goes on Brad Miller with Yao at the free throw line.
You know, it's very interesting. Jeff Van Gundy, you know, you really get to know your players. And if you watch what he does with Yao Ming, he just doesn't come down and drop the ball in the post to him. He rolls him into the post off screens where he can sort of catch that ball on the move and then go right into his shot. So as a coach, you know, Reggie, you set up your plays and stuff to bring out the best in your team, and that's what he does with Yao Ming, always getting a screen to get himself into the post, catching that ball in rhythm, and then going for the score.
Well, I also think because Yao really doesn't have great balance, Coach, and if he can catch the ball on the move, he's going to be more in rhythm and more inclined to make a better shot.
Brad Miller is checked out. Brian Skinner has checked in as Abdur-Rahim makes 2 right there. And every starter for the Kings has scored. This is Juwan Howard with the Stojakovic rebound. The game-high 5 for both Yao and Wesley. As Sacramento comes charging the other way, shooting 70% to start this game.
I'm telling you, Juwan Howard could be so valuable to this team if he can make that shot on a consistent basis. When you have a forward that can extend the defense a little bit, especially when you have Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, and you know they're going to double Yao Ming or at least converge down on him, if he can make that 15 to 20 footer, he can make, his career could go longer, but he could make a lot of money and be so valuable to this Rocket team.
And he's a very, you know, Juwan is a winner. He knows how he fits in. He's really trying to recreate himself right now with his defense and his rebound, but what you're seeing here early in the game also, too, is what teams do to Houston. They get Yao Ming involved as many pick and rolls as they can. And what they do is they get him out showing on both different directions, and he just doesn't have the foot speed, and he'll end up getting a leg out or tripping somebody, and he picks up a lot of fouls like that, trying to rotate across the floor and get to people. Jeff really can't play the kind of defense he'd like to play, the kind of trapping defense he played in New York, because his big people just don't have that kind of mobility.
Yao Ming leaves with 2 fouls. Dikembe Mutombo comes in, the 39-year-old oldest player in the NBA. Ryan Bowen checks out. McGrady comes back in for the Houston Rockets. This is Derek Anderson finding Tracy McGrady, who is 1 of 3 to start the game. Wells defending.
Oh my, how sweet was that?
I mean, faked him baseline, went middle, hung, used his left hand. I mean, are there any more adjectives to describe that?
Well, what he really does, he loves to finish with that left hand going around the basket. What a great advantage.
Right through the hands of Skinner.
And what I like right here, he kind of lulls Bonzi to sleep right there and takes him off the dribble and kind of split 2 defenders right there, and just high enough over Brian Skinner, who was a step slow.
We have 2 last place teams taking on each other. In the Southwest, Houston is in last place with a nice knockaway. Picked up by Skinner. Retaken with a Howard deflection at the other end. Rockets in last place in the Southwest. Kings are in last place in the Pacific. And there's a foul as Wesley was working through a barrage of players. And the foul is on Stojakovic, who picks up his first for Coach Rick Adelman.
Go ahead, Coach.
Well, one of the things when you watch Houston, Reggie, is so much of this game now is dribble penetration from the perimeter. And the only guy they really can do that with is Tracy McGrady. And so you saw Derek Anderson get in there, sort of turn the ball over. When David Wesley tries to do that, he plays out of character. So they have to really pick and choose their spots when they try to penetrate to the basket.
Abdur Rahim is guarding Juwan Howard. There's a foul on Abdur Rahim. You were talking about Howard before. It's just great to see him back out. Remember last year he had the knee injury plus the virus around his heart. And I mean, there was a lot of concern, especially from Juwan, what his future might be. So it's just great to see him on the floor.
Well, because he can do so many things for Houston. He's a good rebounder. He's a solid defender. But offensively, when he had those great years in Washington, when he got the big contract, he was so tough offensively when we played him, when the Pacers played him, because he could go left, he could go right, plus he could make outside shots. If he can bring that to this Rocket team, that makes him so much valuable.
Mike Bibby had picked up his 2nd foul moments ago, and Jason Hart out of Syracuse had taken his place. The foul there's on Brian Skinner, who came in that season trade last year with Philadelphia. At the free throw line is Tracy McGrady. And McGrady is a 79% free throw shooter this season. Tomorrow night on ESPN, the Cleveland Cavaliers take on the Nets, and the Knicks will take on the Suns. Coverage at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. And then Saturday on NBA TV, Chicago takes on Washington. Coverage begins at 7 o'clock on the East.
You know, Kevin, it was interesting. Jeff Van Gundy gave Tracy McGrady a little rest at the 5:53 mark, so you can tell him he's trying to maybe play him in some short spurts, give him a little bit of rest. He's still coming back from being out with that back injury, so I'm sure his conditioning is not where he'd like for it to be.
Here's Bonzi Wells, right over McGrady.
And what I like about that, more so than the shot by Bonzi Wells, was Brian Skinner, who's been reluctant to, Coach Adelman's been reluctant to play him lately, subbing in for Brad Miller. Everyone questions if he can really play that high post position. Handing it off to Bonzi, Bonzi making the shot. Hopefully he can get some added minutes for Brian Skinner, who I thought played great for them last year during the trade for Chris Webber.
Well, they're going to need help from Jason Hart off the bench. They need him to play well. Francisco Garcia, Kevin Martin. They've got to get something from the bench. We're going to see Williamson tonight, seeing Skinner here.
Nice athletic catch working on Mutombo, and a rebound by Anderson. And David Wesley the other way. He had some off-season knee surgery, and his camp was kind of spotty at best. Look at McGrady work inside over Stojakovic.
I say they have no shot blocking, so if you get inside, you can go right to the basket. But just the footwork of Tracy McGrady. He's one of those guys, Reggie, that he sort of has that sleepy look on his face, and you think, well, he's not playing with that kind of intensity. Believe me, this guy is an incredible competitor, and Jeff Van Gundy loves it.
Sacramento has gone 8 of 12 to start the game, and there is a foul with Derek Anderson trying to defend and picks up his first personal foul.
Well, T-Mag, everyone knows about his outside shooting, but look at this quick first step going baseline. Whoop! A little slow again, Brian Skinner.
He's tough. Timeout. We've already had 8 lead changes in this game with Reggie Miller and Doug Collins and Cheryl Miller. This is Kevin Harlan. The Houston Rockets tonight are beginning the longest road trip of the season.
And, Kevin, it's an interesting road trip. They play tonight, and then they don't play again until Sunday in Portland, so they're actually going to go to Vegas. Jeff is loosening up the strings a little bit on this team. They're going to go to Vegas, have a couple days there, then go to Portland and play, and then they don't play again until Wednesday, so they play 2 games in 7 days and then 4 games in 5 nights. So it's an interesting road trip. But this is a trip that starts with tonight. Tracy McGrady told Cheryl Miller yesterday, this first game will set the tone. You get tonight, you got to go get Portland because the 4 back ends of those games are the most difficult of the trip. Last year, this was a 25-16 team on the road that played very, very well. So this is a time for them. They got off to such a slow start last year. Then they made the trade. They brought in John Barry, David Wesley. They got Bobby Sura back. This year they hope to swing this. It's a healthy Tracy McGrady, and then they hope to get Rafer Alston back in the next couple weeks, and John Barry, who injured a calf muscle, so hopefully getting healthy.
Well, I also talked to Tracy in the hotel, and he was talking about what better place for the team to come together than the road. The road always brings teams closer together. It's almost somewhat of a band of brothers. You guys are in the hotel together. You guys go eat together. You go to the movies together. And on top of that, Coach Van Gundy's taking them to Vegas. Now, we did this a couple times. In 1994, Coach Larry Brown took us to Vegas. It would be nice, since they are playing Sacramento, to talk to the Malouf brothers to see if they got a special on the Palms in Las Vegas.
I'm sure they're saying, you lose tonight, we maybe talk about this. You beat us tonight, we're going to pay double there. So double your money down.
You have some clock issues right now that they are working on here inside the Arco Arena. Plus, there was a drink spilled on the floor. Here are some new additions for the Rockets. Derek Anderson. Rafer Alston is out 3 to 5 weeks with a hairline fracture in his leg. Stromile Swift signed in August, and they like what he can do. And Luther Head is the celebrated rookie out of Illinois.
Well, when you see all the changes they made, Reggie, they did it to get more speed and more athletic. And the pieces just haven't fit together. Jeff said our worst nightmare was we really only had 1 point guard, Rafer Alston, and the one thing that couldn't happen is if he got hurt, we couldn't lose Tracy McGrady because he was basically our backup. We lost both of them at the same time. So now you're trying to play David Wesley there, who's not a point guard, Luther Head there, who's not a point guard, and they got their team all out of sync until Tracy could come back and sort of right the ship. You've already seen David Wesley now slide over, play the 2-guard position tonight, starting to make shots again. So when you have to start moving people out of their normal spots, it has a trickle-down effect on your team. As a result, without Tracy, they were 0-8.
Well, also, jokingly, Coach Van Gundy said, we're real thin at the point guard position. I might have to put in Charlie Ward, his point guard, when he was with the Knicks. So many battles between ourselves with the Pacers and the Knicks, and Charlie Ward, an assistant coach under Coach Van Gundy.
Here's Tracy over here sitting down by the Malouf brothers, trying to get a deal on a suite in Vegas.
I told you he was going to.
Here he is.
Trying to, hey, can I have the real world suite at a prorated discount? We're going to be there for a day and a half, 2 days.
They had a delay in Houston the other day. He actually got on the mic over there and was doing a little analysis during the timeout that they had. So Tracy is doing it all tonight.
Well, this is what this league is all about, giving back to the fans and, of course, the owners. When you can, rub elbows with the owners of the Sacramento Kings as well as Monarchs. Did you see the jewelry?
Yeah, he's got a big ring on there.
That Mr. Malouf had on right there. Sacramento Monarchs, the WNBA champions.
Great owners. These guys do a great job. This is a great NBA city. That's why, right now 6-6 here at home, and these folks here have not seen this in a long time. This was
waiting
a place
for
that
something to happen.
Kevin, this place was mired in losing through the years, and then all of a sudden they got good, and this is the hot place to be. Now they're teetering. 6-6 at home, lost 3 in a row at home. They lose 4. They lose tonight. They haven't done that since 1997-98. And so this is a big, big game for them tonight. Reggie, look through the years at their home record. Last year they had some slippage, lost 11.
Which is still pretty good. When you go, you want to lose only 10. I mean, they lost 11 there. But anytime you lose single digits, you're having a great year with your home record. But
usually that means a 50-win season. If you can win 30-plus at home, you're going to win 50 games and put yourself in a good position for a possible home court.
They have now turned off both shot clocks because one was working, one wasn't. To make it fair, they just knocked them both out. So neither team will have any kind of advantage. Now, as soon as I say that, they turn on the one that's been defective as they try to reset it. We have two. The clock is running. I thought we had 2:37 remaining, but right now they're running the clock down to 2:03.
And speaking with the Maloof brothers right before our telecast, they're sitting right next to us. They're somewhat disheveled and a little bit in awe of the record as well at home. They're not used to this. They somewhat inherited a franchise that was going toe-to-toe at the time with the world champion, the Los Angeles Lakers. Those exciting series that were going 6 and 7 games, the heated and the hated blood between the two California teams, and they were like, you know, this is a little bit different for us because of all the home losses.
To be honest, one of the bigger stories out here has not been necessarily the team struggling. It's been, are they going to get a new arena built?
Yeah, that's, you know, this place is a great NBA city. I hope they can get that worked out. You know, this place right here, I just remember doing games here in the playoffs, and you couldn't hear anything.
So you see our score with 2.5 to play in the first quarter. Wesley and Anderson with Howard and McGrady and Mutombo. Yao is on the bench with 2 fouls. And here's Tracy McGrady doubled inside, blocked by Abdul Rahim. Here comes Peja Stojakovic to Bonzi Wells, who has really played well. And inside, McGrady picks up a foul as he tries to tail Stojakovic into the paint. And that's the first on Tracy McGrady.
And he's upset with that because he thought he got fouled at the other end when he tried to take Bonzi baseline and got his shot blocked by Sharif Abdul-Rahim. And he thought he just nudged Peja a little bit going into the lane. And he's wondering what's good for the goose isn't good for the gander down here.
You know, I'm looking at the roster, guys, of the Sacramento Kings, and wondering, should they keep the same offense they've been running, that so-called Princeton offense that was such a mainstay in their heyday? Should they change now with the different elements they've got on this team?
Well, you know, they don't run the pure Princeton offense. When we talked to Rick Adelman before the game, they really built that offense around Chris Webber at the top, Vlade Divac, great passers, and then their guys playing off screens and shooting the basketball. I think what they're going to have to do is tweak it a little bit so that they can play Corliss Williamson and Skinner and Kenny Thomas, some of these guys off the bench who maybe not fit into that type of offense, but could maybe bring something to the table here. We see McGrady rise up and hit the shot. You know, so it might be that your second unit has to play differently offensively, and your first unit can do some different things. I think that's what Rick maybe have to take a look at.
McGrady's got 9 points to lead all scorers so far, and here's Abdul Rahim, a guy who's been a very productive player in his long career, but has never, shockingly, ever played a playoff game.
Well, you know, when I read that last night, and I'm not big on stats, but 600.
But that stands out, doesn't it?
691 games without making the playoffs is a little bit outstanding. But he thought he was coming here to a playoff-ridden organization, thinking with David Wesley hitting the corner jump shot 3, he thought he was coming here to help this team, you know, get to the playoffs as well as challenge Phoenix, San Antonio for supremacy in the West.
Both teams have led by as many as 3. There's a defensive 3-second violation. Second one we've had in this game. And the first on the Houston Rockets.
And that's just unbelievable. As many games and a competitor as Sharif is, for him never to have made the playoffs in his 10th NBA season.
You know, Reggie, there you see the name at the top of the list, Tom Van Arsdale. I want to take a chance to just to shout out to his brother Dick, his twin brother Dick, who had a stroke in Phoenix. One of the greatest NBA families, the Van Arsdales. I played with Tom and Dick. We hope you're watching the game tonight and feeling better. And we want to see you back there at America West Arena real soon.
Less than a minute to play here in the first quarter. It's been delayed by some clock issues. And here is Abdul Rahim, who only played 1 year at Cal. Pickpocketed by Wesley. That's the 4th turnover as he goes tumbling head over heels and tripped on the play. And Skinner was trailing. And Brian Skinner picks up the foul.
And that's a veteran move right there. He comes over and strips the ball from Sharif, turns his back, and then he tries to hurl right back into David Wesley. Good hands right there, and then he just gets in front of big Brian Skinner right there, knowing he was trailing the play, and he could pick up as they say, a cheap foul.
Well, Reggie, you did that too. You waited till you get in the penalty, and then you take the fall. You don't ever take a fall when you're not in the penalty. You want to do it so you get 2 free throws. The best of that was you, Mark Price, guys like that. He knew that the big guy had no chance to stop, so he weaved right over in front of him, and he's going to steal 2 points. That's just a smart play.
Coach, you're giving away all my secrets to America.
I know that.
Doesn't matter now, though, Reg, right? David Wesley with free throws, and the Rockets on top by 2. Jason Hart, who's had some time with Charlotte and with San Antonio. Stojakovic to Hart over Wesley.
And very much the way Tracy McGrady can get into the paint and draw the defense and kick out to his shooters. If Peja, instead of settling for a lot of threes, can get into the paint, you see right there, Jason Hart, a wide open 15 to 18 footer.
No fouls to give either way. And McGrady with the miss, and picked up by Abdur Rahim in the final seconds, ticking off here in the first quarter. Record-wise, these are 2 of the worst teams right now in the Western Conference, shockingly, because both were in the playoffs a season ago. A wide-open 2-point shot by Sharif Abdur Rahim with 2 seconds to play in the first quarter, and McGrady will pop it up. Good if it goes. That concludes the first. Sacramento shoots 73%. David Wesley puts in a game-high 10 for the Rockets. At the end of 1, it's Sacramento 31-29. As you're watching the NBA on TNT. 11 lead changes in our first quarter. We go to the second with the Sacramento Kings in last place in the Pacific Division, up by 2 points. With Doug Collins, Reggie Miller, and Cheryl Miller, this is Kevin Harlan. You can see what the Kings are doing at home. A 4-0 record when leading after the first quarter. You two were talking before the game saying that this is a first quarter league.
Well, it is. I mean, everybody thinks it's the fourth quarter league, but you establish the way you want to play in the first quarter. I mean, this Rocket team last year was 36-9 when they won the first quarter. When they got up to slow starts, they never got themselves back into games.
Francisco Garcia, the rookie from Louisville, is in for Sacramento. A double-teamed Abdur Rahim gives it off to Jason Hart. Also out there, Stojakovic and Miller. That's the Sacramento 5. Here is McGrady to Anderson to Wesley. A 3 by Derek Anderson is in. Also out there, Dikembe Mutombo, because Yao's got a couple fouls. And Stromile Swift begins on the court for the Rockets with the group here in the second quarter.
And a very rare fast break for the Houston Rockets. Did a good job of ball movement. Good cut by Peja Stojakovic down the middle, but very rare fast break point for the Houston Rockets, not knowing, they like to set it up. Jeff Van Gundy doesn't like to run. They don't have the personnel to run.
Brad Miller just picked up his 3rd assist of the game.
Well, you know, it's interesting. We'll talk as Derek Anderson looks like he's going to go to the line for a continuation here, and he looks like it possibly 6 quick points for him off the bench. But, you know, when I looked at the assists, this Sacramento team is very interesting. Their center leads them in assists, and he is in the top 20 assists. He's the only center that's in the top 20. The other 19 are all point guards. So he leads them in assists.
Their shooting guard.
Their 2 guard leads them in rebounding, and their point guard leads them in score, and their leading scorer is not leading them in scoring. So you wonder why right now it's not all fitting, is because the pieces are sort of disjointed now in how it should be.
Well, you know, Brad Miller is a great passer for a big man. Never would I have thought that he would be leading the team with 6 assists a game with Mike Bibby on the floor, because I think Mike Bibby is a great point guard. He did a great job, especially when he had Vlade, when he had Chris Webber. And this is what you can do with Brad Miller. You can run pick and roll, and he's such a good shooter. When teams collapse to him, he can find you with the dump down pass right there.
Well, Reggie, you know it's always fun to play with a good passer because you'll always move. When guys don't pass, you stand.
McGrady just picked up his 2nd foul. Kenny Thomas has come in for Abdur Rahim. Nice ball rotation to the rookie Garcia.
Too quick a shot.
Over out of bounds. Tracy McGrady has started 4 of 10. Stojakovic has now gone 2 of 3 to start the game. Bibby is still on the bench with 2 fouls. He has started 2 of 3.
It'll be interesting to see if the bench now from Sacramento can come in and keep the level of play up. What a nice play there. A little eye contact. Derek Anderson and Stromile Swift rose to the basket for the lob. That's eye contact. All that was, you got the guy fronting, you just walk up the lane and you circle out and you take the nice pass.
And now the Rockets have equaled their biggest lead tonight. Screen by Miller for Garcia. Now the shot clock at 7, wide open, Kenny Thomas. Rebound by Derek Anderson. Rebounding in the game, Rockets +1.
And both teams have a pep in their step, and I really like how Houston role players, David Wesley, Derek Anderson, Stromile Swift, they've come in and they got a little pep to their step.
Well, if I'm Rick Adelman, I take a timeout and talk about my defense on McGrady. He's getting ready to have a big second quarter here. He saw the rookie on him, Francisco Garcia, went right to work. So right now they got to make sure they either get Bonzi Wells in the game or somebody on him so he can't push this lead out to double digits.
Rockets are on a 6-0 run and have their biggest lead tonight of 5.
We're back. Houston 38, Sacramento 33. And at the keys at the beginning of the game, we talked about Tracy McGrady getting off to a good start. They're 3-9 after trailing after the first quarter. And this is a guy that can get it done in a number of ways. Taking the ball off the dribble. And what I like is his showing that fire. But the flip side is when he doesn't play well. We don't know if his back's been hurting him all year, but when his shooting woes, how woeful are the Houston Rockets? So obviously right now he's got a good rhythm. They're looking for him. He's their go-to guy. And Coach, what I like about him is he's not forcing shots tonight. He's hitting everything in rhythm.
Well, he's got Wesley and Derek Anderson involved too. Those guys are combined 5 for 5, 3 of 3 from 3, so they have 16 points, which is a great sign for the Rockets. The shooters are making shots when he finds them in the open areas.
Mutombo gets the rebound on the missed shot by Mike Bibby, who just comes off the Sacramento bench. Out there with Garcia and Miller and Thomas.
I'm telling you, Kevin, he's got Francisco Garcia on him. His eyes are big as saucers right now.
But you look at the 5 that's out there for the Sacramento Kings. Who else is going to guard Tracy McGrady? Mike Bibby's too little.
That's why they're going to come in with Bonzi Wells right now. You cannot let him explode.
Williamson in the game for the first time for the Sacramento Kings. Wells is going to check back in. The foul goes on Swift of Houston for the first time.
And that's just a simple play because he's going to his bread and butter move. Going left, pulling up. Everyone knows that if you force Tracy McGrady right, the percentages go down. You can't let him go left because if you let him go left, that's when he can go into his bag of tricks.
Swift is guarding Williamson. There's a foul. It's on Corliss Williamson.
Got that little chicken wing out, Kevin. The minute you get that arm away from him, you pinned him. Watch this, his left elbow right there. Once you do that, you cannot get that advantage.
So the Kings are shooting 60%. The Rockets come the other way, shooting 64%. Well over 50% through the first quarter. They have been averaging 38% shooting in first quarters before this. As Anderson was looking for Mutombo, who wasn't looking for the ball. And Wells ahead to Mike Bibby and inside, and Bonzi Wells can't slam it. Mutombo is there to draw the Houston foul.
And Dikembe's like, there is no way that I got wrist on that. Mike Bibby did a good job of finding Bonzi Wells cutting down the middle, and that looked like it was all ball right there. He might have got him down low with the body, but from up top, that's all basketball, so probably that's why he's smiling. He felt that, how is someone 6'7" going to try to dunk on someone who's 7'2"?
Wells, who in the first game with Houston this season had 18 rebounds. A sensational night. One more inside the NBA. Catch it in the morning with TNT Overtime on NBA.com. Wells again. They say, guys, that he has been the toughest, most relentless King this season.
Well, he does bring that edge to you. That's what this team needs because they have a very, laid-back team. You don't have a lot of personality, and he brings a lot of personality, no question. Sometimes he steps over the edge a little bit, but right now they need someone to bring that kind of nasty approach to the game.
Houston has started 5 of 6 from the floor in this second quarter. A rebound by Miller and kicks it out to Wells, looking down low for Thomas. And was it off Houston? Yes, it was.
Kevin, you asked a while ago about the offense. Now you've got Corliss Williamson in the game. You got Kenny Thomas, Bonzi Wells, 3 newcomers with Brad Miller and Bibby. This is what I was talking about, where maybe you tweak your offense and you go to Corliss Williamson in the post, maybe Kenny Thomas with an isolation, because Bibby and Miller are the only 2 guys really who know the intricacies of this offense.
Lutherhead is in the game for the first time, and Bibby makes a move on him. Mike Bibby knocks it down. 3 of 5 and 6 points for Bibby. 10 for Stojakovic leads the Kings. 13 by McGrady leads everybody. Now Yao back in the game, taking the place of Dikembe Mutombo. Yao playing with a couple fouls.
Well, it's funny how the Stars sense when rookies are on them. Tracy McGrady went right at Francisco Garcia. And when Lutherhead comes in, Mike Bibby goes right at him. So you always try to find the weak link or the easiest adjustment on the Corliss Williamson. And you know what I think a lot of that is from? I think that's from rust. He's been sitting over there on the bench. He really hasn't been getting no court time. He's kind of thrust out there on the court. He's running full speed. He had good intentions of getting the ball to Bonzi, but it's just rust. He hasn't been on the court.
Kevin just picked up his second foul.
Kevin, how about your best player, Tracy McGrady, takes a charge on a full run, a galloping Corliss Williamson. He just come back from a back injury. I mean, Jeff Van Gundy had to just, like, his heart had to be up in his mouth.
But you know, it's those kind of plays which kind of bring some passion as Swift takes it inside and Williamson grabs the loose ball. We're talking about Sacramento sometimes having a hard time igniting, and Thomas inside. But Houston needs that one performer, too, to kind of light their fire.
Well, if your best player steps in and takes a charge, then your other guys better do the same thing.
So they liked it in Indiana when Reggie took the charge all the time.
I was too skinny for that, Kevin.
Houston trying to stop a 6-0 run by Sacramento. Yao. Miller did a nice job on him, and Bibby comes up with the rebound, and the Kings are +1 in rebounding tonight. Thomas wide open. McGrady with the rebound. Rockets have led by as many as 7. Kings have led by as many as 3. And this is a 3 by Derek Anderson. Rebound by Kenny Thomas.
I'm telling you, Derek Anderson is getting some wide open looks from T-Mac's penetration.
Still by Swift got good position on Williamson. McGrady is 6 of 12. Thomas on him. Oh, what a play by Tracy McGrady.
That's just upper body strength right there. He just muscled that ball right to the basket. Looked like he had no place to go underneath the basket. You know, great players just have a sense of where they are, and when they hear that whistle, they think 3 points, not 2. And Tracy McGrady hears the whistle, muscles that ball into the basket, gives Houston a 3-point lead, and he'll be shooting a free throw when we come back.
The NBA on TNT. Brought to you by the all-new Hyundai Sonata. A Hyundai like you've never seen before. And by K-Swiss.
The Sacramento Kings come into tonight having lost 4 consecutive games, 3 straight at home, which is unheard of. And they trail right now by 3, 42-39, with the leading score 15 from Tracy McGrady. Now here's that trade we were talking about earlier in the broadcast from mid-last season with the Philadelphia 76ers.
Well, the trade for Chris Webber, and we talked to Rick Adelman and said, Rick, why was their production so good when they came last year, and this year their numbers are way down? And he said, well, none of these guys were playing in Philadelphia, so they sort of came in with a tremendous amount of energy. They played very well. Brad Miller broke his leg, so Skinner got a lot of minutes there. And that's what we were talking about, how somehow Rick Adelman's got to sort of find a way that these 3 guys can help his team off the bench, because otherwise they're getting nothing off the bench, and they just can't win with their 5 starters. They got to get something from that bench.
And their veteran players as well.
Yes.
That can bring a lot to the mix.
The days of Turkoglu and Bobby Jackson are gone. There's Thomas finding Miller over Stromile Swift.
And he froze Stromile Swift right there because he pump faked him, and Stromile thought that he was going to drive by him. He went up to block the shot, and he measured him perfect on that.
Rockets come in having just beaten Boston and Houston on Tuesday. There's a McGrady shot. He's already got 7 points in this quarter. With Bibby the other way, and a 2-point for Mike Bibby. With Luther Head, the rookie from Illinois, getting schooled because Bibby's gone at him twice and both times beaten him.
Well, this is not going to be very good for the rookies, Luther Head and Francisco Garcia, because you got guys that are battle-tested, playoff-tested, that take it personal when they believe there's someone who can't guard them. Brad Miller, you let Yao Ming turn baseline and take that shot. You don't want to give up a silly foul like that.
Yeah, you don't want to foul a jump shooter, but Mike Bibby, you know, he plays at such a good tempo. You never see him out of control, and if the game is close, I've always felt he's their clutch guy. That's the guy that's going to make all the big shots for you, and that's why early in the season, when he was struggling, it really had such an effect on his team. And, you know, Reggie, I remember opening night this year, and Sacramento went to play New Orleans, Oklahoma City, and they got beat 93-67. And I remember my eyes went up like, oh my goodness, what is up with Sacramento? And they've had a decent stretch where they won 5 of 7, but they really have not played good basketball all season long.
Well, I, for one, picked them, especially when the news that Amari Stoudemire was going to be out 4 months. I really picked them in this Pacific Division to win it, with Amari and the Phoenix Suns and the MVP Steve Nash coming in a close second. No one expected the Clippers to come out the gate like this, and it's been somewhat surprising of their record.
3 by Bibby, and a rebound by Swift. There comes Derek Anderson.
Well, with 4:24 on the clock and Tracy McGrady on the bench, this is the time for Yao Ming to try to establish himself down low.
Swift missing badly. Thomas caught it, and Bibby the other way. Bonzi shooting over Anderson.
And if I'm Coach Van Gundy, Coach Collins, when Tracy goes out, I say the ball goes into Yao every single time. Play through Yao.
Yao right now
does not need to be shooting. Excuse me, Kevin.
Yao is 2 of 3, 7 points, guarded by Abdul Rahim. They tried Williamson there moments ago, but Williamson picked up 3 quick fouls, and he's back on the Sacramento bench.
There's that play, Reggie, you talked about. Drag Yao Ming down with a screen roll and just throw back to Brad Miller. So that shot will be there for Brad Miller all night long. If you're Yao Ming now, you got to try to punish him down on the block. You can't be out there chasing on that screen. And I think Jeff Van Gundy's going to take a timeout here and talk to his team with Tracy McGrady on the bench.
We've had a 9-point turnaround in this second quarter because Houston led by 7. Now they trail by 2 late in the first half. In this week's installment of NBA Planet, we take a look at Brad Miller's hometown of Kendallville, Indiana. He attended East Noble High School. He transferred to another prep school for his senior season. Then he went on to play collegiately for Gene Cady at Purdue University. And every summer he returns home to Kendallville to spend time with his family, play some basketball with his friends, and enjoy a very simple lifestyle. You ever been there, Reggie?
I've never been there. He's tried to always get us up there. When I had played with Brad a few years back for 2 years in Indiana, he was always trying to get us up there, Coach, for his golf tournament. But I just want to know, was that basket 10 feet regulation? It looked like it was a little low.
I might be able to slam on that thing.
Because he looked like Shaq on that dunk right there.
Sacramento is in the middle of a 14-5 run after trailing by 7. Tracy McGrady. Rebound offensively by Swift. Then yanked down by Brad Miller.
That's where Stromile Swift has to help this team. Offensive rebounding, defense, shot blocking. That's the niche he has to create for himself on this team with his energy.
Kings are shooting 62%. Miller ups that total with 10 points to equal the 10 by Stojakovic, who's been very quiet. Most of his came in the first quarter. He's on the bench right now. 16 by McGrady leads all scorers. 48% shooting by the Rockets. Nice knockaway inside. And the other way, driving, is Kenny Thomas.
Kenny Thomas cannot believe he missed that chippy right there. He won't get an easier one tonight than that.
Ryan Bowen has come back in for the Houston Rockets. And Yao with a very easy-looking hook. He's got 9.
Those are those shots that you missed, those layups that would have put you up 6. It's now 2. Here's Brad Miller stepping out once again. He's just sort of playing horse out there right now. But you know, when you're losing, Kevin, those layups don't go, and you don't get that little surge that gives you that 6-8 point lead. The crowd gets into it.
But you got to fight your way through it,
That's
Coach.
right.
You got to run. You know, you got to practice harder. You got to stay longer, come earlier.
No question.
Inside to Swift, working on Abdul Rahim. Rebound by Bonzi Wells.
Well, that shouldn't be in Stromile Swift's game. You know, you're talking about him having a niche. Very much like Otis Thorpe was that guy for Hakeem Olajuwon in the Rockets. Charles Oakley was for Patrick Ewing. He needs to be that for Yao Ming. He needs to be that tough thug. Get in the weight room, start lifting, and only worry about getting 10 to 13, 14 rebounds a game, 3 or 4 block shots. Points will come on second shots.
This is Ryan Bowen. The Kings are 4 rebounds up on the Rockets right now, with Bibby charging the other way and retained by Yao.
Boy, the Sacramento's had plenty of chances. They have made some horrible decisions on the fast break, over-penetrating with the basketball, delivering the ball to a guy who's going to run himself into a charge. You can see the personality of this team is not a running team. They run for jump shots more than they run for layups.
So the Rockets, who have missed 12 of their last 14 shots, will take a timeout as we take you to Atlanta and Ernie Johnson Jr. EJ, thank you. Well, Reggie?
I think Cheryl had that graphic put up there. I think his sister was
day
behind that.
Sad day in Bruin land when I got to hear Ernie Johnson and Cheryl Miller give me so much grief.
You know what, Reggie, I'm not going to give you any more grief. That was a painful beating, wasn't it? And then in January, you get to watch us win the national title?
I am pulling for you because it's good for our conference. That's the only time I'm going to pull for a Trojan. Ernie and Cheryl.
Under a minute to play here in the first half. This is Tracy McGrady. He's gone 7 of 15, draws the defense of Kenny Thomas right here. The shot clock down to 5. Wesley being chased by Bibby. Bowen with a second to shoot and was short, and that's a shot clock violation.
I thought Bowen could have went back to David Wesley when he lost the ball and gave it to him, but good pursuit there by Mike Bibby, not really known for his defense.
Reggie, I always talk about finishing quarters and all, and it's been Sacramento. Houston was on a real nice roll. I think they'd gotten a 6-point lead and looked like things were in their favor. And then I thought Rick Adelman made a very good substitution. He came back in with Bonzi Wells, and Bonzi sort of stabilized them defensively. And the Rockets have gone through one of those dry spells that they go through right now where they just can't get anything to go.
Actually, the Rockets were up by 7, Doug, and they have now missed 13 of their last 15 shots.
You know, it's Jeff Van Gundy's teams and Pat Riley's teams have always been like this, where, you know, they're going to go through stretches because they spend so much time on defense and so much energy. They'll go through stretches where they'll miss 10 of 12 shots or 12 of 14. That's why you always have to keep playing against them, because they will go through droughts.
Both teams have a foul to give. Bonzi Wells inside working on Anderson. And that is a foul inside on Derek Anderson.
And that's the one advantage, very much the way Tracy McGrady has on most shooting guards. Bonzi Wells has that same advantage because of his size and especially because of his strength. He can take most 2 guards, and he took Derek Anderson down there to somewhat kind of punish him and drew the foul.
So Wells at the free throw line. And NBA coverage continues next Thursday night on TNT. Game 1 featuring Carmelo Anthony and the Nuggets taking on LeBron and the Cavs. In Game 2, it's the Rockets and Sonics. Also tune in to TNT's Overtime on NBA.com. Are you with us next week, Reggie?
I'm with you guys.
Hey, good.
I told Tracy when we were in the hotel too that we are somewhat like Rocky groupies. We're traveling around with them, meeting them every Thursday.
Kings have a foul to give with seconds remaining in the first half. Howard. Yao. Brian Skinner back in defending. And picked up, and that takes us to halftime. But what a nice comeback in that second quarter by Sacramento.
You know, Yao Ming is working so hard in there, can't get anything to go. But, you know, Sacramento, you got to give them a lot of credit. They were down 7. This crowd was out of the game, and their defense picked up. The Rockets went through one of those little dry spells, and they have to be very happy right now with a 5-point lead going in at halftime.
Sacramento led by 2 at the end of 1, and here at halftime they lead at 52-47. Brad Miller's been a great story, Cheryl, with 12 as we swing it over to you.
Brad, Coach Adelman said that the key to tonight's game is you guys offensively had to be efficient. You shoot 60%, you got to be pleased with that.
Well, you know, we stepped up. I think we're playing with a lot of energy and, you know, effort tonight, and it's just showing on the court.
Talk about your matchup with Yao. He gets into early foul trouble, but every time you guys ran the pick and roll, you were very effective stepping out on the perimeter.
Yeah, in the 3 years I've been here, that's something, you know, I've done pretty well on the offensive end against Yao because, you know, Coach Van Gundy really wants to jump the pick and roll. So to get a 7'6" guy that's that big, you know, I mean, by physics alone makes it a little tough. So just keep working at it.
All right, good luck in the second half.
All right, thanks.
EJ, let's send it back to you in our Atlantic studios and fight on.
We're back in Sacramento, and tonight's high-definition aerial photography is being presented by Phillips. Sacramento Kings in last place in the Pacific, leading the Southwest last place Houston Rockets. 52-47 with Reggie Miller and Doug Collins, Kevin Harlan. Houston led by 7. Then they lost that lead. What happened?
Well, the wrong guy's taking shots. You expect Tracy McGrady to be 7 of 15 shots. But Yao has to be up to 16 to 20 shots. He's 3 of 7, and Stromile Swift is 1 of 5.
Right.
The 5 shots he shouldn't be taking. Those shots should be going to Yao. Now, I know the big 3 for Sacramento, they're not shy of taking shots.
Well, Reggie, I think when you look at Sacramento, the big 3, probably the best first half they've played together all season long. They combined for 30 of the 52 points, 9 of the 13 assists, and this is what they have to do to win. See Mike Bibby come down, pulls up, and shoots the jump shot over the top of Luther Head. Brad Miller, 12 points, 3 assists, shot the ball well because Yao Ming cannot get out and cover him. Peja Stojakovic played only 14 minutes, got off to a good start. What I like is he got to the line 7 times, but the numbers favor Sacramento. We talked about their offensive efficiency. They're shooting over 60%. They have 13 assists, and they have 52 points. If those numbers continue, they'll win this game.
So you take a look at our Dodge game summary. And let's quickly, before we start this second half, check in with Cheryl Miller.
Well, a very brief Jeff Van Gundy said we need to defend a little better, rebound a little better. We're getting great looks at the basket. All in all, it's a pretty good game, guys.
It is a pretty good game. This is a matchup of 2 playoff teams from last season searching for answers. I mean, a season ago, Houston finishes 51-31 after starting 6-11. Sacramento goes to 50-32 last year. I mean, I can't believe we are seeing, in essence, the same 2 teams that played so well a season ago.
Well, we're not right now, Kevin, because Sacramento, we've talked about their core players have not played up to their capabilities at the same time. And you heard Charles in there talking at halftime about teams searching for an identity. Houston's identity is defense, and Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming offensively, and then their shooters playing off of those guys. For Sacramento, it's the 3 core guys, the addition of Abdul Rahim and Bonte Wells, who played well. I think the scary thing for Sacramento is the starters have all but 4 of the points. And can they continue to carry them in the second half?
Well, I think that's what Coach Adelman's been searching, is where is he going to get points coming from the bench. He tried to go with his so-called vets and Corliss Williamson, Kenny Thompson, and Brian Skinner, but they didn't produce. Kenny Williams had some good looks at the basket, but couldn't put them down. You know, I'm someone going to go out on a limb here because one of these 2 teams, even though they're cellar dwellers, one of these 2 teams is going to make the playoffs. At the end of the day, when it comes April, one of these 2 teams, I believe, is going to be one of those 8 teams that move on. I don't know which one it is because both of them really haven't shown that they really want it. But you look at all the standings and where each of them sit, one of them is going to make it.
Well, Bibby is back there with Wells, and Abdul Rahim, Miller, and Stojakovic are on the front line for the Sacramento Kings. This inside by Wells. We begin the second half. Yao is in there with Ryan Bowen and Juwan Howard. And then they got McGrady and Wesley in their backcourt.
Well, one of the reasons Ryan Bowen is guarding Bonzi Wells is because he will pay more attention to him down there on the block. He won't put McGrady in a position to get fouls, but also he'll do a better job of keeping him off the offensive boards, and that's what he did that time. And Bonzi Wells just threw him down in the loose ball foul situation.
Wells picked up the foul. That is the second on him. The floater inside. Won't go. McGrady with the miss, and here comes Bibby, and that's a quick foul. Wesley was defending, and David Wesley picks up the foul. He's having to play point guard now when he was so settled at that shooting guard position.
Well, that's what injuries will do, Reggie. I mean, they totally disrupt the team.
And he's so much more comfortable when he is at shooting guard, because when Tracy McGrady penetrates, he gets wide open shots. When he has to set up the offense, that's going to take away from his offense because he's too tired just to set up and knock down jump shots.
The score right now is a score we had at halftime. Yao with a little shot outside, and now Yao Ming has 11 points.
This game is so simple, Coach.
Just take your time.
When you have the biggest man on the planet and one of the most creative in Tracy McGrady, you can almost play just a two-man game with them and get a lot of shots. But I understand Coach Van Gundy is trying to get everyone involved. But at the end of the day, Tracy McGrady has to create, and Yao Ming has to be more aggressive on the offensive end and stop settling for turnaround, fadeaway jump shots. Put someone on that big 7'6" butt and put him in the hoop.
Well said. That's a traveling violation.
Kenny Smith made a great point at halftime, and I don't think we've talked about it enough tonight. When you look at these two teams, one of the things that they really lack is speed and quickness on the perimeter. Both of these teams are slow on the perimeter, and the way the game is structured today, it's about speed and quickness, dribble penetration on the perimeter, and neither one of these teams have that, and that's why they are struggling as well.
You see Bibby set a screen on Yao.
Well, you get him involved in those picks, and he just sort of gets stuck to it. Reggie talked about his balance. He just doesn't have the balance, so if you get your body on him, Brad Miller can have a 25-point night here if they keep looking for him on that perimeter.
Ryan Bowen with the screen from Juwan Howard. The interesting thing, too, about Sacramento, their guards are always buried down low, and their big guys are on the front. Although here we see a running two-point shot by Mike Bibby.
And the reason why that works is because Bonzi Wells is such a good offensive rebounder and low post player. That affords you the luxury of having your perimeter players down on the block when Brad Miller is outside playing the high post.
This is the biggest Sacramento lead tonight. With David Wesley trying to feed it inside, and Yao got it, and fouled he is by Abdul Rahim.
See David Wesley having to play out of character, though. Gets in the lane, the ball is tipped. They were very fortunate, but this is the way they like to play. They play a little two-man action, and Bibby steps right in, a little bump, and that's all Brad Miller needs to do is be able to step out, and then Mike Bibby steps down, pulls up, and knocks up that jump shot. So Bibby's off to a great start here in the second half. He's 5 of 8 with 10 points. Basically, their starting team, almost everybody's in double figures, except Abdul Rahim only has 8. So will it be the starters of this Sacramento team being able to carry them? I think the game is much more important in Sacramento tonight than it is Houston. They cannot win, and they cannot lose another home game.
Because both teams are struggling, and both teams need a win.
But you can't lose this home game. You can't lose 4 straight at home.
I'm more shocked that Yao Ming would let Mike Bibby set a brush screen on him and not knock him to the floor or go right through him. You got to take a foul.
Bibby with the three-point try. Ryan Bowen has the rebound. Rockets have hit 3 threes, and the Kings have hit 1 3-point shot. And this is Tracy McGrady, the game-high scorer right now, who puts in his 18th point. McGrady is averaging 22 a game. Just like that, the Rockets crawl to within 3. Stojakovic.
There's the pet play. That Chris Webber was the master of that play, where you have Bibby and Stojakovic working out of that corner, the little dribble handoff. That's Stojakovic and Bibby's favorite play, and Webber was the master at making that play work.
Rockets are shooting 44% from the floor. Yao with the screen, and McGrady can't get it. Offensive rebound by Juwan Howard. Ryan Bowen.
Got away with a little dance step there.
Wesley with a nice fake, and McGrady is picked up by Wells. And Yao inside.
Very nice. Two-man basketball. The last 2 plays, screen roll with Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming. That time, Tracy McGrady drops the ball inside. Those 2 guys create. Everybody else plays off of them.
Kings are shooting 59%. They've led by 7, and the Rockets have led by 7. A Miller screen for a Stojakovic 3. Rebound by Bonzi Wells. What a play. That is the first offensive rebound by the Kings tonight.
And that's what we're talking about, the luxury of having Bonzi Wells, because he's more comfortable of being down low and on the post than on the perimeter. Yes, he can make outside shots, but here's the shot by Peja Stojakovic. But Bonzi's more comfortable down low, getting offensive rebounds and putbacks. That's where he's valuable to the team as well as posting up.
He's a foul line and under player.
And if I'm Bonzi Wells, what's he doing right now is he's playing the rover, the help defense. He knows Ryan Bowen is not going to take shots, so he could be that somewhat loose defender for the Sacramento Kings.
Bibby. Saved by Ryan Bowen, but Bibby's got it and gives to Bonzi. And a timeout taken by the Rockets, and the Kings have their biggest lead tonight.
This crowd wants something to cheer about. They love their Sacramento Kings. They have not played well at home all season long. They want their team back.
The NBA on TNT. Brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. And by the United States Marine Corps. The few, the proud, the Marines.
The Sacramento Kings are shooting almost 60%. They've got their biggest lead tonight against the visiting Rockets. This was a team that 4 years ago was within one game of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, Robert Horry broke their heart. They had a chance to go up 3-1, and then it's been disaster. Chris Webber hurt. They trade the heart and soul of their team. Actually, he signs as a free agent with the Lakers. The trading of Chris Webber to Philadelphia. Then they add Bonzi Wells in a trade for Bobby Jackson. They sign Abdul Rahim after he flunked his physical with his knee. In New Jersey, there is Jeff Petrie, who does a magnificent job here. But right now, this team is searching for an identity, some passion, some intensity, some bench help, so that they can get back to getting this crowd as excited as they were over that last time out.
Ryan Bowen is out. Derek Anderson has come in. That's the only change. And here come the Kings. 9 Houston turnovers in the game and 9 Kings turnovers in the contest so far.
But I'm going to tell you, who they really miss the most, you talked about Chris Webber. I really think they miss Doug Christie just as much. His energy, he was the other ball handler for Mike Bibby.
And I'll take it one step further. There's a 3-second violation. I think they missed Bobby Jackson off the bench.
Well, his passion, his toughness. Hey, guys, think about the guys they used to come off the bench with now. I mean, David Jones was a guy here who didn't even get off the floor for them, but Bobby Jackson, Hito Turkoglu, Scott Pollard, John Barry, they came off
high energy guys.
With a lot of firepower and with a lot of energy. And that's what they're missing, that passion, that fire. This crowd feeds off, and the team just feeds off of that kind of energy. That's why, Reggie, you were one of the few teams in the East that came in and beat this team about 4 years ago. They went for about a 4-year stretch where I think they lost 3 games total to the Eastern Conference. They just didn't lose in it, or didn't win in here.
Except when Reggie came to town. Derek Anderson, 3-point shot by the Kentucky Wildcat, picked up by Stojakovic.
This is now where Houston really has to buckle down defensively. They can't let this lead grow any larger than it is right now. They got to find a way to stay in the ball game, so their great closer.
What a nice catch by Bonzi Wells.
See, that was a great look by Bibby, because Bonzi Wells was getting ready to rotate. Tracy McGrady was going to rotate up and take that pass away from Brad Miller, and they had eye contact, and Bonzi Wells went right to the basket. That was a great read by Mike Bibby.
Well, down low, they wanted to look for Yao. The miss outside by Howard. Bonzi Wells has had 9 already in this third quarter, 19 for the game to lead all scorers. That's a good-looking shot by Mike Bibby, who's got 12 with 6 assists and now the place is alive.
Well, that little, what I call it, a drag screen in transition, where your point guard is coming down, the big man wants to run back into the paint, and Brad Miller just steps up and sets the screen, and you see Yao Ming just cannot get up there. But there's the play previous when he read it, threw over the top to Bonzi Wells when he saw McGrady going for the steal. There's that little drag screen action. Yao Ming is back in the lane. He's just stepped up and knocks the shot down. So this is the good shooting, good passing team that we used to see here in Sacramento. And look at their efficiency tonight, Reggie. 69 points, 62%, 17 assists. When they play like that here, they don't lose.
Well, I'm telling you, Coach Van Gundy really has to be scratching his head right now because they're known as a defensive team. That's what they predicated themselves on. And for a team to shoot 62%, mainly jump shots as well. I mean, you want teams to shoot jump shots, but, you know, when Brad Miller starts knocking down 18 to 20 footers and Bibby is doing the same, I mean, there's little more that you can say. But what I'm disappointed about is the last two times down the court, Derek Anderson takes the shot and Juwan Howard takes the shot. Tracy McGrady and Yao Ming, it has to go through them unless they're double teamed. And they're not being double teamed. They have to put the basketball up.
Over the last 2.5 minutes, Sacramento has outscored Houston 11-1.
Bonzi going to work in the post. If Yao Ming helps, Brad Miller will get that little open jump shot. Let's see what the Rockets can do here now. Can they find that shooting touch that was so good for them to start the game?
Here's Yao inside for McGrady, defended by Wells.
Risky pass there by Yao Ming and the high-low look. They're thinking that Tracy's upset because he thought he had a control tip, as they call it, and he thinks he should be shooting free throws. But Tim Donahue, the referee, saying he didn't have control of the basketball.
Here's McGrady, 8 of 18. Howard is 2 of 6.
Now that's when he's double teamed coming off the pick and roll. That's where David Wesley, Derek Anderson, Juwan Howard, that's where they can be valuable on this team. Make the wide open 15-footer.
Screened by Abdul Rahim for Stojakovic.
You cannot go under that screen on Stojakovic. You got to fight over it. Sacramento's a team that they're a great jump shooting team. The Rockets are a team that wants to defend the paint. And against this team, you've got to build your defense out.
Howard with the screen for McGrady. That's a 3-second violation.
Now watch where Derek Anderson goes. He goes underneath that handoff. That is what Peja wants to do. He wants to stop and shoot that ball behind the screen. He's made his living doing that. You got to chase over the top of that, make him put the ball on the floor and chase him off that three-point line. Right now, Sacramento is doing anything they want to do offensively. Everything is working for them, and their core guys, the big three guys that they count on, are all delivering here tonight.
And Coach, you talked about this being a statement game for Sacramento, that they needed to come out and win this game. You know, they were benched, all starters in the fourth quarter against Minnesota. They come out and have a lackluster effort against Cleveland at home. You're saying this is a statement game for Sacramento.
I'm saying that if your team doesn't win a game tonight after those things happening, if I'm the coach, I don't sleep for about a week because I know I'm in trouble with my team.
Juwan Howard has 8. Here come the Kings the other way, shooting 64% from the field in this third quarter. Abdul Rahim's got 8 points. He's gone 4 of 5. And Brad Miller for 3.
Got that baby locked in tonight.
17 points. The Kings have hit 3 threes, as have the Rockets.
Now Brad Miller's over here pointing to Reggie.
I didn't teach him that, but we've always known he can shoot them.
That's a defensive 3-second violation. This is the second meeting with these two teams. Rockets won earlier in the season by 9. They've won, going back to last year, 2 consecutive games over Sacramento.
No, they're just winning in every category. Assists, points in the paint, field goals made, points in the quarter. You know, Reggie, I've always felt like that, I don't know how you felt about this as a player. One of my pet peeves, I thought NBA players did not do a good job warming up to start the third quarter. And they would come out, and I always thought that first 6 minutes, if you could jump on a team because they weren't involved in the game, it looks like that the Rockets have not been involved in the third quarter, and Sacramento's been one step ahead of them this first 8 minutes of this period.
Well, how long have you always heard that? That's gone back to high school. The first 5 minutes of the third quarter are the most important, especially in a close game, which this was. And it looks like Houston is not responding.
Yao and Derek Anderson.
Now the question is going to be now, as Rick Adelman tries to rest his starters, can his bench hold this lead?
Well, the key is you don't rest all the starters.
Right.
As long as you can keep Peja, Mike Bibby. Right now they're resting Brad Miller. As long as one of them or two of them are on the floor, they always have a shot.
Brian Skinner is in for Miller, picked up by Derek Anderson. Rockets shockingly come in as the last place in the Southwest Division. This is Wesley for three. Rebound is off the hands of Anderson. And the Kings will have it when we come back with 2:45 to play in the third quarter. Sacramento's lost 4 straight, leading Houston right now by 11. As part of the NBA WNBA Cares Breast Health Awareness Auction, fans can log on to NBA.com and WNBA.com to bid on a pair of Peja Stojakovic's game-worn sneakers, an autographed Mike Bibby jersey, and a Spalding basketball signed by the entire Kings team. Rockets fans can bid on a chance to attend a game with NBA legend Elvin Hayes. Log on to bid and help benefit the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. Another sellout, well over 220 straight here in Sacramento, with the Kings leading 75-64, 19 points from Wells, leading all scores, 18 from McGrady, leading Houston.
I think it's going to be important here for the Rockets to get this down to about 6 at the end of the third quarter. Because the Sacramento Kings have lost some home games, there'll be a lot of pressure on them if this game gets close in front of their home fans. So the close of this third quarter, very important for the Rockets.
And you got a good closer in Tracy McGrady if the game is close. You have someone who can make big shots.
Well, Mike Bibby, wow, Kevin, he has really got that thing dialed in tonight.
Doug, he's 7 of 12. He's got 14 points, but the Kings are shooting 62% for the game.
And they have 20 assists.
31 made baskets. Not bad.
That's
very efficient.
When they're good is the ball is moving from side to side. Guys are coming off screens. The pass is being delivered at the right time, so they're getting very high percentage shots, and that's the case tonight.
Wells leaves and Francisco Garcia comes in. Stojakovic just picked up his second foul. Miles Swift is in for Houston.
And this is the problem that Sacramento and Rick Adelman had in the first half, is when Bonzi Wells went to the bench in favor of the rookie Francisco Garcia, Tracy McGrady started to catch fire, and they go with the switch with Sharif switching out on him. Tracy McGrady picks up the foul on Sharif Abdul-Rahim.
Abdul-Rahim picks up his first foul.
You know, you think about, there was reading a lot of articles, and Rick Adelman asked his team the other day about, you know, has anybody of you guys ever been on a losing team? You know what it feels like? And I was thinking about the years that Mike Bibby spent in Vancouver, Abdur-Rahim in Vancouver, in Atlanta. Brad Miller had 2 losing years in Chicago, 67 losses, 61 losses. So they've been through it. And Reg, you know, they ever play on a bad team, the season will never end. And they've got a chance to get this right, but they can't let an opportunity slip away from him here tonight.
Lutherhead has come in for Derek Anderson for the Rockets.
And I like what Van Gundy is doing right here. He's trying to speed up the tempo.
8-second violation.
Gone to a 2-2-1 trapping, 1-pass trap.
And Sacramento fell asleep. There was nobody back here for Mike Bibby to throw the ball to. They just ran down the floor with their backs turned to the ball, and those are careless errors. You cannot make those kind of mistakes.
I told you the Kings over 60% from the floor. Rockets are 44% shooting tonight. Howard is 4 of 8. Wesley's hit a couple threes. Shot clock is down to 4 for the rookie Lutherhead out of Illinois. Foul on Mike Bibby.
They got bailed out there. That clock was just about ready to go red. say, look at Mike Bibby. Nobody's back here. Everybody's run down the floor, and you're going to see Rick Adelman. He's going to say, guys, you got to think. You know, you can't let these possessions, you can't throw possessions away.
And these are lapses from players that have been in this situation before. Mike Bibby, Peja Stojakovic, Sharif Abdul-Rahim. I mean, these guys have, even though Sharif hasn't been to the playoffs, he's played in big games before. And everyone knows you can't leave your point guard alone bringing the basketball up when it's a two-man trap.
Bibby just picked up his third foul.
You know, we haven't talked much about Luther Head tonight. You know, that probably of all the guys that are performing, he's probably playing better than the Rockets thought he would at this point in time. You heard Jeff Van Gundy talk about how he's earned his minutes, but shooting 47% from the three-point line,
which is good for number 9 in the league.
Played a great Illinois program. They got to the Final Four in the championship game.
Howard fouls Skinner. He was an important guy for that Final Four team.
Oh, I mean, that team was terrific. Darren Williams, who's in Utah. You had
D. Brown, who's still
Luther
there.
Head, D. Brown is still there. I mean, they were a terrific team and came within one possession of winning the national championship. Had one of those threes gone late, they might have won. But as a result, Roy Williams got his first national championship with that Carolina team.
Ryan Skinner from Baylor. Woo. Oh, wow.
Some damage done up there on those couple misses.
Woo. There's a lane violation.
And Van Gundy right now is like, you got to be kidding me. We got one of the worst free throw shooters on the Sacramento team shooting, and we're going to get a lane violation? Guys, let them shoot. And that cost them a point.
And that's what happens. You can't make those kind of mistakes when you're trying to start winning basketball games. Those things add up, and Jeff is a stickler to attention to detail. That's one of his strengths as a coach.
Couple rookies going head-to-head here. Head and Garcia. Luther Head knocks in a long-range 2.
Down to 10. They get a stop here, and they get this to single digits. They're right back in the game.
Well, Luther Head was out early before most everyone was out with Coach Charlie Ward working on his jump shot. We like to see rookies in the gym early working on their game.
No fouls to give either way as Bibby lasered one inside for Abdur-Rahim. Wesley at the other end.
It's going to be a 2-for-1 possession now, so they could get this down to 6. So not a good finish. The win it, Sacramento went to the bench. Reggie, see what's happened. That lead has slipped away.
Well, you talked about finishing quarters, and right now Houston is finishing the quarter the way they want. Silly foul by a rookie on a rookie. You never want to send someone to the free throw line, especially when the clock is in your favor.
Head picks up his first foul. Rookie Garcia at the free throw line.
Now, Kevin, what you've done is you've lost your 2-for-1 possession, and now you've given it back to Sacramento.
And Francisco missing his first. Tomorrow night, ESPN gives you the Cavaliers and the Nets and the Knicks and the Suns. Coverage at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Saturday, NBA TV, Chicago at Washington. Coverage at 7 p.m. NBA TV.
You know,
I was in.
Coach, we had to talk with Coach Van Gundy, you know, to expound on Luther Head. He really wasn't expected to play a lot.
Right.
They figured Bob Sura was going to be healthy and playing for them. And to me, they miss him the most. He's the toughest player on this team.
No question. Leader, toughness, just willed his team to victories.
There's a difference of 5 seconds. The game clock and the shot clock winding down the third quarter.
And Tracy needs to take this all the way down to make sure that 2-for-1 does not go in the favor of the Sacramento Kings.
Now with the screen, Anderson working by Stojakovic, back into Yao. Rebound inside, out of bounds with 3.8 to play in the third.
Got to dunk that ball, Yao Ming.
That's what I'm talking about. Why is he trying to go up quick like someone's going to block it? Gather your feet like number 34 down in Miami. Gather your feet and take 3 people up with you and put them all in the hoop.
Swift comes in for Anderson. McGrady over Abdul-Rahim. Good! Tracy McGrady with a 3 with a 10th of a second to play. And the Kings, who led by 14 with 4:10 left, watch the Rockets go 12-4 to close the third quarter. It's a 6-point game for Jeff Van Gundy and the Rockets. The Sacramento Kings, who come into tonight having lost 4 consecutive games, lost a 14-point lead. It's a 6-point lead going to the fourth. And let's talk about elusive points.
Well, you know, Kevin, you talk about easy points in a game, and Houston gets none. Their points off turnovers are 28th in the league tonight. They have 12 fast break points. They only have 2. They average 6 a game. And points in the paint, interestingly, even with the Yao Ming, they're last in the NBA. Tonight they have 20, so they get nothing easy. Everything is a grind it out for them. But, you know, with that strong finish in the third quarter, they're right back in this game, and the pressure now swings to Sacramento to close this game out at home.
Here's McGrady, picked up by Bibby, and on the fly, T-Mac has hit 2 straight, 5 in a row, and McGrady now has a game-high 24 points. He canned a 3 with a 1/10 of a second to play in the third quarter.
And this is the scary thing, because those were 2 difficult shots.
That does not go in for Bonzi Wells.
Tracy McGrady facing Sharif Abdul-Rahim, knows it's under 4 seconds left, fakes him once. Uses his extension right there, and a little grin at Mr. Maloof running down the court.
See, that's what great players do. They make those kind
find
of shots,
ways.
and it just takes the life out of you. You know, it's like, oh my gosh. And that's why if the Rockets can stay close in this game, they've got one of the best closers in the game, and they got a great chance to win it.
Swift picked up his second foul.
Missed 2 free throws.
Wow.
See, that's what happens. The pressure gets on you. You know that, Reg. You've been in stretches where you've played at home and you haven't played well. You've lost a few games. You get in a game like this, the crowd starts on and oohing, and you feel the pressure. Every shot becomes more difficult than the next.
And I guarantee you the ball's going to be in this man's hands the rest of the evening.
Grady with the miss, picked up by Kenny Thomas, who's out there with Bibby and Miller, Bonzi Wells, and Francisco Garcia. This is Bibby, fouled by Wesley. Wesley out there with Head and Stromile, Swift, Yao, and Tracy McGrady. The third foul put on Greg Wesley, or David Wesley.
Here's where that core has to come back into play. You got Mike Bibby, you got Brad Miller, it's Stojakovic back in the game. They've played so well. They have to carry this team to win tonight. They have to drag this team along. Now Mike Bibby missed a free throw, so that's 3 straight free throws.
And they've missed 6 of 9. 6 of 9 they've missed at the line.
That's what pressure does.
So while the Kings are shooting a little over 61% from the stripes, the Rockets are shooting 79% from the free throw line.
Well, let's see if Brad Miller can reestablish himself. He had a good rhythm when he went to the bench, picking up those fouls. Let's see if he can reestablish himself, the shots, the passing. I thought he was the main reason why the Sacramento Kings got out to that lead.
Yao with the travel inside, the defense by Brad Miller.
You know, he works so hard in there, and what happens, Reggie, you talked about it, he doesn't have great balance right now, and he's worked so hard. So what happens when you get your body into him, then you sort of step back away from him a little bit. Instead of going up with that strong first move, he wanted to come back with a finesse move. There's no way Brad Miller can block his jump hook if he would just trust it, go up, and go over the top. And Brad Miller's not a shot blocker.
And I believe he could have used one more dribble. If he'd have used one more dribble, then he could have done that jump hook and probably would have been a little bit closer as well.
There's that little isolation play, little give and go there with Kenny Thomas this time instead of Miller on the play.
Another offensive rebound by Wells and a 3 by Mike Bibby.
Big shooter, Kevin. We talked about the guy who makes all the clutch shots for this team. When they're good, it's Mike Bibby.
Kings had not hit from the field in about 4 minutes, dating back to the late stages of the third quarter. Lutherhead with the mismatch on Thomas. Swift free to fire. Didn't come out on it. Points in the paint, even, 20 apiece. Second chance points, about the same. Fast break points, Kings +8. Garcia for 3.
No.
That's Sales out of bounds.
Now, if I'm Mike Bibby, this is where you're the leader of your team. You walk over to the guy and say, don't take that shot again. It's a 6-point game. There are times to take that shot. That wasn't the time. And that's what happens with rookies sometimes. They try to squeeze their minutes in and think that shooting themselves into a game is how they're going to play. That's not how he's going to get in the game.
Derek Anderson has come in for McGrady, and here is Head. Nice pass to Yao, slapped away inside. Thomas did the slapping, and here comes a three by Bibby. And Yao picks up a foul, climbing in the back of Thomas. And for Yao Ming, personal foul. Make it Swift. Swift picks up his third.
You know, it's interesting. They have now Yao Ming is playing Kenny Thomas. So they're going to play that pick and roll now, let Kenny Thomas step back to shoot it. He's not nearly as effective as Brad Miller. They've got Stromile Swift, so Jeff Van Gundy's made that decision. So if they can't get Yao Ming involved in the pick and roll, they'll have to use Kenny Thomas instead of Brad Miller. Oh, nice.
Good pass. Miller looking for Wells. Jason Hart has just come in for Francisco Garcia for the Kings.
It's always a luxury when you can have a good passing big man. I know he didn't finish right there, Bunzi Wells, but for Brad Miller at 7 feet to make that pass from the high post, that's invaluable.
You know what happens in a game like this, too? When you're struggling to win a game, you're up 6, and you miss this shot, and you know a team's going to come down, probably hit a 3 against you. So now instead of going up 8, watch Houston, they'll hit a 3. It always happens when you're struggling.
Thomas picked up his first foul for the Kings. Here's Head for a 3. Oh, Doug Collins, you were as accurate as that shot was.
We're going to Vegas
Yeah, we are
with
right
the
now.
Rockets. We're going to Vegas with the Rockets.
And I'm private. Good call, Doug. Here comes Miller and picked up by Wesley and then kicks it to Hart.
Now Jason Hart in the game. You got to make him shoot jump shots.
To Kenny Thomas. To Bonzi Wells. We've got a 3-point game, and the Rockets could tie right here with a 3.
Now Yao and the Rockets, I would go everything through Yao right here. I know Luther Head just hit that shot, but bring the big fella over.
Anderson. Head to tie for a 3. And Head again. Gets it. Wesley. Anderson for the tie.
No legs. Both of those shots was with no legs and the wrong person shooting it.
See, Sacramento's got to make their move right now. Tracy McGrady's over there resting. You better get some cushion because you know he's going to come back to finish this game with energy. So every chance that Jeff Van Gundy can get right now to buy a minute or 30 seconds for him plays into their favor to finish the game.
McGrady's got a game-high 24 points. The Rockets have gone from 14 down now to within 3 on TNT.
Welcome back to Arco Arena, where the Kings are holding on to a 3-point lead. And joining me is Gavin and Joe Maloof, the owners of the Kings. And Gavin, for so long, this organization has been so successful. So I know it's been a culture shock this season. Have you been able to put a finger on why the team has struggled early?
No, not really. I mean, we're not used to this. I mean, we're used to winning. It's going to be a long road that we have ahead, but it's still a team that hasn't been together for that long, so we're hoping that at some point we really come together and gel.
Now, Joe, I know that it's very early in the season, but at what point do you guys become kind of concerned at the direction of this team?
After we lost the first game, we sweat every dribble, the two of us. No, really, it's a new team, a lot of new players that got to get used to playing together, but we're a little concerned right now. We should be. We've never been in this position before.
All right, I'll let you guys enjoy the rest of the game. Let's send it back over to you, Kevin.
All right, Cheryl, thank you. There's a second on the shot clock and 7:40 in regulation. Wells trying to sneak it in and does to Miller. And now the Kings have gone 1 of 8 shooting in this fourth quarter.
Seen 3 missed layups and 3 free throws missed just to start this period.
Brady leading all scorers with 24. Swift a screen for Head. McGrady for 3. Oh, and slammed in by the uncovered Stromile Swift.
And that's the nick.
There you go.
That's what I would love to see Stromile Swift. Don't worry about anything else, scoring. Just rebound the basketball, put back, and play good, solid defense.
Now with a chance to take a lead, something they haven't had since late in the second quarter. McGrady goes down hard. It's a foul on Bonzi Wells with a trip. And that is the 4th on Bonzi Wells.
Stromile Swift, what you do, you go right to the basket, and Tracy McGrady gets so much attention, there'll be open lanes. That's what you're supposed to do. Get right in there on that offensive boards. The tripping foul. Mike Bibby back into the game, so the starters back on the floor once again for Rick Adelman. He had the nice lead. He went to the bench. Everything went dry, and right now Houston's got a chance to take the lead.
Well, they lost their rhythm.
Absolutely.
Now they're out of rhythm. Now they got to find it in this last 6 minutes and 45 seconds. They got to try to find a rhythm.
McGrady looking for the lead. Kicks it outside. Here is Head. Swift for the lead, and it goes in. Climbing back from 14 down. We've had a 15-point turnaround in this second half.
I really like Luther Head. He brings some energy, some quick legs out there. He shoots the ball well, very savvy.
It's Miller looking for Wells and picked up by McGrady, who gets tangled up with Miller. And Miller, I think, is going to draw the foul.
That's leg whipping. The leg whipping.
It was like in football, like in the NFL.
That's exactly right. It's a 15-yarder when you do it on Sunday. It's only a loose ball foul in the NBA.
Oh, that's great.
Where's the yellow flag at from the officials there? I don't see the yellow flag on the play at all.
He's holding on to his foot. Rockets come in having won 2 of 3. Head gives to Swift, who gives to Yao, and that's what Reggie Miller wants. Yao flushing inside. He's got 17 with 6 rebounds.
And it's been off dribble penetration. Now Luther Head twice has got into the lane. Defense comes over, and Reggie, you know, when you get penetration into the lane, it's like a house of cards. Your defense just starts to collapse. Stromile Swift's made 3 nice plays, now a couple finishes, a nice little pass to Yao Ming. This will be a big comeback victory on the road here for Houston. A devastating loss for Sacramento. Houston on a 25-8 run.
The NBA on TNT, brought to you by Intel Centrino Mobile Technology. For incredible entertainment in your lap, get Intel Centrino in your laptop. By T-Mobile, get more minutes, more features, more service. By the Braun Activator, it's the world's best self-cleaning shaver guaranteed. And by Philips Flat TV with Ambilight.
You could win a trip for 2 to the NBA All-Star Game 2006. Enter the Southwest Airlines NBA All-Star, Be a Star sweepstakes at southwest.com, NBA or NBA.com. Prize includes airfare, hotel accommodation, and tickets to All-Star events, including the All-Star Game.
Kevin, it's going to be very interesting. You know, Reggie, in these situations, your coach tells you a lot about the confidence in your team. Where is Sacramento going to go now for a field goal? I'm assuming they're going to have to get Bibby, Stojakovic, and Miller involved in some kind of 3-man action. That's their strength. They're going to tell you a lot about what Rick Adelman feels about where he can get a field goal now here with him struggling so badly.
Well, that's where it should go, is the big 3. You know, they've been carrying them all night except for this 4th quarter.
Abdur-Rahim, and now the Kings have missed 7 consecutive shots.
And what I like, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Houston right now is what they call grinding it out. Because they're not going to go for any fast breaks. They're going to use some time on this shot clock and try to get the ball to their players.
Rockets on a 12-0 run.
Now there's where Stromile Swift cannot play out of character. Tried to do something he wasn't capable of doing. Stay to your strength. You've been playing very, very well. Stay within that little compact area that you're good in.
McGrady is guarding Bonzi Wells, and he slips it away. What a nice defensive play by Tracy McGrady. And then Anderson goes flying the other way, and then here comes the rest of the team as we approach 5 minutes to play in the game.
And I love it. Tracy McGrady comes up with the steal, dives on the floor. You're talking about him taking the charge in the 1st quarter, but that's infectious too with rookie Luther Head.
I like this young guy. This young guy's got courage. I tell you, it's one thing I always used to look in players, courage and toughness. He's got both.
He's earning the stripes.
You bet he is, and he's earned the respect of his teammates.
Luther Head is at both of his 3-point shots tonight.
Another turnover.
Swift has it down court for Anderson into Stojakovic, and a foul called on Peja. with 4:37 to play. Sacramento has gone scoreless the last 5.5 minutes of this game.
Well, look at these fourth quarter numbers. The Kings 1 of 9. The bench 12-0, scoring a lot of that Luther Head and Strohmiles Swift. Points 17-4. We could feel it, Reggie, slipping away at the end of the third quarter. I mean, we talked about if they could get it to 6 and put the pressure on Sacramento. That's what's happened. Sacramento has not responded. Still a lot of time left. Can they dig in and get it done?
The Houston Rockets have outscored the Sacramento Kings 17-4 in this fourth quarter. All right, now let's check out tonight's Marines teamwork play of the game. We've seen a lot of them. But from Swift to Yao for 2, and part of this avalanche of Houston Rocket points and dominance in the late stages of this game.
Well, that's the fire you wanted to see. Charles said there really was no leader on the Houston Rockets, but tonight Tracy McGrady is showing that this is his team. And you look at Sacramento's upcoming games, Doug, and it doesn't get any easier. They're at Seattle, they're at New Orleans, and they're at Minnesota. Also in that, they have Detroit as well. So, you know, if they don't get this one, you know, this losing streak could easily balloon to 7-8 games if they don't get it corrected quickly.
You know, in this league, when you start losing, the games just come on top of you. There's no time to work through it. Counting tonight, you've got the 4 and 5. There'd be 5 games in 7 days. Remember now, they owe the road 7 games. They'll play 7 more home games. They lose tonight, they go to 6 and 7 at home, which is unheard of here with this Sacramento franchise.
Mike Bibby has scored all the points for Sacramento in this fourth quarter. There's a foul. Derek Anderson, who is trying to claw inside, picks up his 3rd personal foul. Cheryl, what do you have?
Well, Kevin and Doug and Reggie, in the last time out, if you just got a chance to watch just the body language on the floor of the Kings, and if you can get a shot of even Joe Maloof, he's in the tunnel with his arms crossed. This team desperately needs a leader, and they desperately need a win.
You know, I think that, you know, when Tracy McGrady is healthy, Reggie, on top of his game, I don't think there's any question he's the undisputed leader of this team. And I think he's willing to try to put this team on his shoulders. Early in this year, he's been hurt, and you see the Maloof brothers. I mean, there's still plenty of time in his game. It's only going to be, if he knocks in this free throw, a 7-point game. The big question is, does Sacramento believe they can win? Do they believe they can get the defensive stops necessary and then come down and execute and score?
But they're not known as a defensive
Correct.
team, so
when their shots don't go, they don't defend. So that's why their offensive efficiency is so vital. And when they went cold, they stopped guarding.
Here's McGrady to Swift. Shot clock down to 5. Into Yao over Abdul Rahim. Rebound by Stojakovic. Abdul Rahim with a screen. Stojakovic for 3.
Oh, you know what,
Throws up an air ball.
He did that the other night against Cleveland. They got back, Kevin, in the game. It was a tie game. Took a horrible 3-point shot that just deflated his team. And then Cleveland went on to close that game out.
But you heard the gasp in here. The gasp was Brad Miller, who has been knocking down shots all evening. Passed up one of his patent 18-footers. You got to take that shot, Brad.
Here comes Yao. Fouled by Abdul Rahim.
Now, Coach, we talked about at the top of the show the keys. I said Tracy McGrady was going to do well in these 2 areas. One of them was get off to a good start.
And they did. They had 29 points in the first quarter.
And the second was, we were talking about 90. Oh, my God. If they get 90 points, they have a chance of winning. They're the first team to 90. They got 93 points right now. And whenever they score 90 or better, they're usually on the winning end of these games.
Well, you see the magic number, 90. They got that at almost the 5-minute mark. But what's happening is they're locking in now defensively. Tracy McGrady from start to finish has been the man. Got some great production off the bench. They got 20-something points off their bench. So they've got some great contributions here. Can they close it out?
Swift with a foul.
The last thing you want to do is start fouling and putting a team on the line.
That's a pretty good free throw shooting team.
And let them catch up with that clock stop.
Bibby's 84% from the stripe this season. And Mike tonight has gone 1 of 2, now 2 of 3. Bibby with 19. In fact, the Kings have 3 players with 19. Miller, Wells, and Bibby. 24 by McGrady leads all scores.
Well, this is what we call milk time, especially when you have 2 of your best players on the floor. This is milk time. You got to milk the clock, get the ball into Tracy McGrady's hands with under 10 seconds so he can make a move, make a play.
That's a tough shot. Oh, my goodness. He has made some incredible shots, but that's what happens. You get a closer on your team. Just ask the Yankees with Mariano Rivera. Those closers are something special. I remember I had a lot of views of Michael Jordan closing out games and the fear that he puts in other people's eyes. Great players. He got a rest in the 4th quarter when they got themselves back into the game, and he's just taken the game over.
Swift just picked up his 5th personal foul. Bibby is at the line.
And why is Stromile Swift reaching for the basketball on a 6-foot point guard down low? Put your hands up, contest high. That's Luther Head's job when he gets beat, is to reach in there. Guards reach on guards. Big men do not reach on guards.
That's the area of his game, the attention to detail, and he's got a terrific coach in Jeff Van Gundy, and if he'll just pay attention, he can take away the rough edges of his game and stop making those kind of mistakes, Reggie. Then he becomes a winning player.
McGrady, what a turn to get free. Rakovic has the rebound. Bibby. Bonzi Wells rejected by Yao. Rejected again by Yao Ming. 2 in a row inside. Miller wide open.
Right back in the game. It's a 5-point game. That's 2 possessions. Yao Ming gave a terrific effort that time. Blocked 2 shots. Brad Miller did not run away from that jump shot, Reggie. Knocked it down. You see Bonzi Wells. Here comes Yao Ming. You talk about big men keeping their hands up. He did it once again. Sends away Abdur Rahim. And then on the relocation, Brad Miller knocks in the shot. This game is not over by a long shot.
Coming to TNT 3 nights in a row. Don't miss the 2nd chapter of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Watch The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night, starting tomorrow night at 8 on TNT.
There are no fouls to give. The Rockets have 2 timeouts. The Kings have a 20. Houston is up by 5. And a basket a moment ago by the Sacramento Kings broke a drought of over 8 minutes from the field.
Well, they're still in the game. I think if you're Houston, you have to think that obviously Tracy McGrady's going to have the ball in his hands. And if you're Sacramento, you got to make somebody else take the shot. Hey, the guy I like out of double teams, if Luther Head gets that shot, I think he'll knock it down in this pressure situation.
Good pressure by Bonzi Wells. Full court on Tracy McGrady, using up some time and energy.
Shot clock at 5. Yao gets stripped inside by Abdur Rahim, and here comes Sacramento. The Kings on a 6-0 run. Miller. Rebound by Yao Ming. He's got 8 rebounds and 20 points. McGrady has a game-high 26.
It's a big basket right here. They get a score here, put it up to either 7 or 8. It'll be tough for Sacramento to overcome that.
Tracy McGrady flies inside with a foul.
And he was caught right there because right now Sharif Abdul-Rahim and Bonzi Wells are trying to talk it out like, should he show on the pick and roll? Should I go under? And he's a little bit upset. Yeah, he got caught going underneath. And Sharif didn't show enough because he thought that he was going to go over the top, and Tracy saw a little gap and took the gap right to the basket.
McGrady from the free throw line tonight has gone 4 of 6, 27 points.
Coach, I have a question for you. Now, you know, Sharif is guarding Yao Ming. Now, would Sharif ever guard Shaquille O'Neal down there? No. Probably not. So what's the difference with Yao Ming, who's bigger than Shaq, weighs as much as Shaq, and he's settling for Sharif guarding him?
Well, one uses power and one uses finesse, and that's the big difference. Right now, Yao Ming tries to use finesse, and that's what you cannot do down there. Here's a jump shot by Abdur Rahim, and And looks like Sacramento is going to lose their 4th straight home game. I don't think they've done that since the 1998-99 season.
97-98.
97-98.
97-98, 4 consecutive home losses then. Like you say, it looks like 4 in a row right now.
And Kevin, they had this game in hand, and they let it slip away because they did not finish the 3rd quarter. They went to their bench, did not finish the 3rd quarter. The lead went from 14 to 6. All the pressure went on Sacramento. They turned the ball over. They missed free throws. All the things. Look at Jeff Petrie. He is absolutely just got to be beside himself here. The owners, they're not used to this after about the last 6, 7, 8 years in Sacramento. Now, for about 20 years, they didn't win anything.
Yeah.
And then they got Vlade Divac and Chris Webber, and you know, it just. Here's, you know, we talked about the Kings' keys. Offensive efficiency, they needed 100 points, only going to get 91 or in the 90s. They did shoot 50%. These guys did a good job, the big 3 early, but Peja has been nowhere to be found here at the end of this game. Brad Miller's missed a couple shots, passed up another one. And they
as well as their bench. They have no bench.
Yeah,
Sacramento has no bench, and Rick Adelman has to find answers in the bench. You see right there trying to protect their home court. 6-6 here at Arco Arena, and I know the Maloof brothers, right now they're probably going to have lost 3, soon to be 4,
and they'll go to 6 and 7 on their home court. Reggie, they went through 3 seasons where I think they lost a combined 9 games in 3 seasons, and that's how dominant they've been on this home court.
This was definitely a tough place for us to play when we came in here. The cowbells, you know, you hear Phil Jackson back in the day with the Lakers and Shaquille that this was one of the toughest plays. Great playoff series here. The intensity, it was almost like a college football atmosphere. They were camping out, they were grilling in the parking lot, and you know the fans and the great relationship between the fans and the Kings players, college atmosphere, but it's long since been gone now that.
Well, they don't have speed and quickness on the perimeter, and they're getting nothing off their bench. So that's the biggest concern when you look at this team.
Sacramento's gone 2 of 16 from the field, 2 of 17 from the field in the 4th quarter.
You know, and I feel for Rick Adelman because, you know what, being a coach, there's nothing worse than when you get in these situations about how can you get your team out of it. And you know what, he's on the last year of a contract. A lot of speculation out here about his security. You see the pain and anguish on his face. This is a man who's won a lot of basketball games here in Sacramento. You know what happens to everybody. You go through this. I mean, he's been through it. He was a great coach in Portland. Golden State, it didn't work so well for him. He's been terrific here. Jeff Petrie and he are very, very good friends. And this is a tough, tough time for this organization to go through right now.
Well, only Sacramento, Dallas, and San Antonio have won at least 50 games in each of the last 5 years. It shows you the great success he's had. Bibby, rebound by Yao.
And you know, on the flip side of that for Houston, this is a big win for them. Now they got the win the other night against Boston at home. They're going to win this game tonight. Now they have 3 days off, and they go to Portland, and that's a game they've got to dig in and get because the last 4 games of the trip are going to be their toughest games.
And Cheryl started it by saying at the beginning of the show that Tracy said this was going to be a big trip for the Houston Rockets. It was going to be indicative of their season. They wanted to start this trip off well. Yao getting hit in the face. He already got 18 stitches.
Well, a guy slapped at the ball. I think it might have been Abdur Rahim. Right there, he slaps at the ball and he scratches him both in his nose and looked like right over his eye. Looked like he had 2 scratches.
I'm telling you, they know. They know he bleeds.
Well, he's going to Vegas. He's going to the boxing
They know
capital
he
there.
bleeds. Well, this will definitely make the flight to Sin City a little bit more enjoyable, Kevin and Doug. Cheryl, now that you predicted that 3 by Luther head coach, I think we should get on the charter with the Rockets and head to Vegas. 101-91 in Arco Arena. We'll be back.
Rockets lead by 10. They trail by 14, if you can believe that, in this second half.
Well, that's how quickly the game changes. And Kevin, what happens is when you stop making field goals, especially Sacramento, the pressure just built on top of them. And then they started making uncharacteristic mistakes. They started missing free throws, and the Rockets just fed on that.
Well, I'm just glad they got Yao into the offense a little bit more. He had only 7 shots at halftime. He's up to 13 now, but you would like to see him 16 to 20 shots. You want that 1-2 tandem because you know Tracy, and that's a nice little scratch he has on his face right there. Tracy's going to get his 20 to 26 shots, but you want Yao to be up there 16 to 20.
Mike Bibby.
You know, Kevin, I think this game also turned when Jeff Van Gundy went to his bench. Luther Head and Stromile Swift did a nice job tonight. They made some big plays. I thought the big basket was when Bonzi Wells missed that layup that could have gone to 8. He knocked that 3 in to make it a 3-point game, and they went on from there. 33-6, the bench scoring tonight, and that's been the difference in the game.
Well, Cheryl said that this is the last time Houston played 6 games on the road, the 1988-89 year, and they went 2-4. They're starting this road trip off pretty nice. They go to Portland, as you mentioned, Coach.
Well, they were 25-16 on the road last year, so they were a good team, actually almost as good on the road as they were at home. Here's another turnover. Well, this has just been when the going got tough tonight, the Kings caved in, and that's crushing to a coach, that your team did not fight through it.
And these fans are being very kind to them, too. You're only hearing a spattering of boos. If this has been L.A., New York, Philadelphia, Boston, wow. But like you said, it's not Coach Alleman's fault because I think he always has a solid game plan. He always has his team prepared. He's not out there playing. Everyone always puts the onus on the coach. But they have no go-to player like Charles said. I don't know who their go-to player is on Sacramento's team.
That is a terrific victory for the Houston Rockets. Houston with a 25-point swing over the final 16 minutes of this game. Let's go to Cheryl Miller.
Well, Derek, 1 down and 5 more to go. Nice way to start this trip out.
Yeah, it was good. You got to realize the first game is always important in this league. If you get off to a rocky start, it don't get any easy. And so we got some momentum going into the rest of the games. And, you know, God was with us tonight, so we got to keep growing from that.
I asked T-Mac what this road trip would tell him about this team. He said #1 character, but he has to add toughness. You guys were tough tonight.
Yeah, we was down, and plus these guys are veterans at this, and we learned we just kept fighting, man. Guys started missing shots, we started making plays, but Tracy makes plays for us. So, I mean, when you got a guy like that, you kind of fit in and just roll with it.
In the first half, the Kings obviously scored 52 points. Talk about your defense in the second half.
Yeah, they were shooting 61 from the field. We were giving them wide open shots, so instead we made them go to the rim, and they didn't finish a lot. And, you know, we can control the boards at the second half, and when you do that in the NBA, you give yourself a chance to win.
If you're going to play roulette, play #7 or #31. Okay. All right, congratulations. Let's send it over to you, Kevin.
What is that, a Miller thing?
Yeah, it's got to be a 31. Always got to bet on 31.
That's our final score tonight. Our producer, Scott Cockrell, our director, Lonnie Dale. For Doug Collins, Reggie Miller, Cheryl Miller, the rest of our crew, Kevin Harlan saying good night from Sacramento. We take a break, then take you to Atlanta. The Houston Rockets extend the Kings' losing streak to 5 consecutive games. Good night from California.